Good day, ladies and gentlemen. From the industrial metropolis of Holy Mars to the shadow-shrouded moon of Deimos, Forgeworlds come in all shapes and sizes. You will also find that between the Xenos-loving Xenorites of Styges and the zealous Puritans of Metallica, there are massive differences between the people that inhabit them. Of course, if you can even call them people still. Regardless, we will be going through the important ones today, starting with the red globe itself, Sacred Mars.
Would you like to call? Call.
Call? A call to call.
Calling. Call.
The red planet is by far the most important planet for the Adeptus Mechanicus. It is the planet on which their cult was originally born during the Age of Strife. It saw the cult split into the Martian Mechanicum, which would later become the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the new or true Mechanicum, which is now more commonly known as the Dark Mechanicum. It is the home of Archmagos Belisarius Cawl, the creator of the Primaris Space Marines, who, if we're being honest, is the only reason the Imperium is still clinging on to dear life. Mars is also the political and religious center of the cult. The Fabricator-General, the highest ruler of the Toaster Boys, is located here. Out of all of the Forge Worlds, no one comes close to having so much knowledge and STCs as Mars. And to top it all off, there may even be a Catan shard of the Void Dragon located beneath its surface that enhances the technological process of Sacred Mars. Altogether, this makes the radiated, smoke-filled industrial wasteland of Mars the most important planet for the Adeptus Mechanicus, and even the Imperial normies consider it the most important planet after Holy Terra. As a result, the forces of Mars are proud and devout like no one else. They were literally created on the Jerusalem or the Vatican of the cult, and thus they better act like it. Their tech priests are extremely well versed in the dogmas and rites of the priesthood. Their Scutari more advanced and better trained than anyone else's, and every troop, vehicle or weapon is painted in the richest vibrant red to show they originate from Mars itself. Probably it's a bit like cars, how smaller someone's mechadendrite, the more elaborately they will display their Martian red. Jokes aside, Martian priests are pretty impressive, as with their expansive knowledge of rites, no one seems to be better at dealing with machine spirits. They are like the dog whisperer, but then for machine spirits. Finally, I should also mention the Ring of Iron, the largest Imperial shipyard in the universe. The ring is a mind-bogglingly massive construction built around Mars' equator. And outside of some docks and some defensive structures, this late-game Factorio base is entirely dedicated to pumping out starships. A good thing is the solar fleet seems to be in need of replacements surprisingly often.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me.
Metallica, the gleaming giant, is utterly obsessed with the purity of steel. Everything biological is an affront to the machine god, and they won't stop until every last speck of non-imperial filth has been purged from the galaxy. The Forge World itself started out as a pretty idyllic planet, with flourishing plant life, beautiful oceans and a wide variety of animals. Of course, according to the Metallicans, that couldn't stand, and they soon declared nature itself heresy. Every single organic molecule was purged from Metallica's surface and replaced with thick layers of blessed steel. Wherever you go on Metallica, there is nothing now but forges, factories and storage depots. In another absurd act of devotion, they have started to artificially increase the sounds made by everything produced on Metallica. The tech priests find nothing more inspiring than the amplified clangs of industry that echo all throughout Metallica, and thus they decided that they would share their industrial metal playlist with the wider universe, making guns that bang as hard as cannons, and making vehicles that roar twice as hard as everyone else's. In other words, a Metallican vehicle is the Harley-Davidson of the 40K universe. With how quirky they are, it might come as no surprise to you that they even look down upon Sacred Mars. They are not planning for another schism, but Metallica does firmly believe that they are more devout and more pure than the filthy Martians. As such, these robot races only add a touch of red to their pure white color scheme, and some tech priests refuse to even do that, instead displaying only sacred metallics and virgin white. Of course, the joke of gatekeeping Puritans that enjoy loud music being called Metallica is something I don't think I have to explain.
Kill it when he finds out what happened! You mean, if he finds out!
Of course he's gonna If is good.
On the polar end of the religious spectrum, we find the ever-staring Cyclops, the Forge World of Styges 8th. And by the Omniscience adamantine balls are these guys based. During the heresy, Styges 8 was almost destroyed by the forces of the War Master, but for whatever reason the Eldari came to their rescue and slapped the Chaos forces back to the warp. While this resulted in the survival of the Forge World, it also set in motion two very interesting series of events. First of all, because it would be utterly embarrassing and borderline heresy to admit having worked together with the Eldari, a lot of effort was put into burrowing all evidence of these events, going as far as to start entire research departments specialized in data-destroying viruses, noosphere disruptors, and advanced cloaking technology. Impressively enough, they were so successful that nobody on Styges can even remember the Eldari incident, and all records of it have been destroyed. Secondly, this led to the formation of the Zenerite cult, a group of tech priests who believe Xenos technology is also part of the machine god's grand design. In other words, instead of destroying all Xenos tech, they prefer to conquer it and study that necronucy in detail. 10,000 years later, Styges 8 has become a Forge World whose covert manipulation skills are unrivaled. Their knowledge of the Xenos races outmatches even that of the Ordo Xenos, and outside of Kull, no one is better at manipulating the necron material known as Blackstone. All the tech heresy didn't make them popular though, and they are loathed by basically every other Forge World. They are regularly invaded by the Death Watch and the Inquisition, who undoubtedly have found so much heresy it would make Fulgrim blush. Just a shame for the Ordos that no one has managed to get out of the Forge World alive yet. As of late, they've been pulling an Ahriman, and they have been trying to get into the Black Library. But as anyone who has tried to navigate their website can testify, that's a fool's errand, of biblical proportions. But even after losing a couple small armies, their quest continues. After all, no prize is too big to get your hands on some steaming Drukhari Harlequin knowledge. Knowledge. Sure, knowledge.
Raise the sun! Raise the sun!
Forge World Lucius is a very odd looking planet, as it isn't really a planet at all. No one knows how or who created this thing, but Lucius is a hollow planet-sized manufactorum complex, and like a Malteser, the center is filled with something particularly crunchy, namely an artificial star. And now before you say, that just sounds like a Dyson sphere, let me stress how wrong you are and how insane this is. With a Dyson sphere, a ball is built around the sun to capture its energy. In the case of Lucius, there was just a massive ball of buildings for some reason, and some lunatic actually managed to conjure up a sun out of thin air into the middle. No one knows how this happened, and thus it is impossible to make another Lucius, but of course every tech priest from Lucius will tell you their family was responsible. Regardless, the so-called Holoforge is a tool like no other. With the heat of a sun at their disposal, the Lucians have invented a special alloy known as Lucian. Only Lucius is capable of making it, and it is one of the most durable materials in the galaxy. The fact that it requires the heat of a sun to make this material is also why the metallic parts of Lucian troops are so often scorched black. Other than being a poor attempt at blackface, the priests of Lucius see this as a holy mark that shows their troops are fitted with the best alloy known to mankind. Just to give an idea of how cool this alloy is though, the Warp Runner's Titan Legion has been constructed of this material. Normally, when Titans would try to use a teleportation beacon, they would be mangled to shreds, but those built from Lucian can actually do this without a problem. Good luck keeping your troop morale up when an army of god machines pops out of thin air in front of you. Outside of high-end specialty goods, Lucian is also excellent at making bulk weaponry and machines. The availability of unlimited energy and the size of the manufactorum complexes allows for fast, reliable production in massive quantities, which is very fortunate because they are also tasked with resupplying the dead core of Krieg, who, if we're being honest, do a great job of testing to see if Lucius can keep up with their attrition rates.
I had my pieces.
Your pieces?
My guns.
Oh.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang!
Wow.
Bang!
Risa is also called the Furnace of the Shackled Stars because of their specialization in the production of my personal favorite 40k weaponry, plasma weapons. From plasma guns to plasma drives and from plasma reactors to plasma exterminators, if you want a sun in a cage to power your cities or weaponry, Risa is the place to be. That being said, Risa has not had the easiest time of late. Already during the heresy, they were almost destroyed by the War Master's forces. They achieved a Pyrrhic victory, but this shocked them so hard that they started to roleplay the Imperial Fists. Risa started to invest a lot in building more defenses, building more weapons to defend themselves, and even building a defense platform the size of a moon. It is good that they did though, because 2 orc was have made Risa their primary target. Normally, even a single orc wall would easily crump a system, and 2 would be complete overkill. But in the Forge world that has been stockpiling weapons and defensive structures for the past 10,000 years, they found their match. The priesthood of Risa has actually started to enjoy this war quite a bit, as they can finally test out all the weird experimental weaponry they had stored for this occasion. I mean, just imagine if you had to wait 10 millennia to open up your Christmas presents, you'd be hyped to get blasting as well. Final noteworthy thing about Risa is that their cloaks are a brown-orange color. This acts as a cameo for their Forge world because it is entirely covered in deserts of rusty sand. When you reach a higher rank, you replace part of the orange with the sacred red of Mars though. I guess that makes sense because high-ranking priests rarely find themselves fighting in the dirt anyways. There's a reason Skitarii have been invented after all. If Risa is the Admech version of the Imperial Fists, then Agrina could be likened to the former Iron Warriors Legion. Originally located next to Cadia, the Orb of a Million Scars has faced more warfare on its surface than most Forge worlds combined. The priesthood of Agrina has accepted the Sigma grindset though, and focused the entirety of the Forge world on the perfect execution of defensive warfare. Like a wannabe pro gamer, they analyze the replays of each battle to identify every minute mistake or potential point of improvement. Regardless of how stupid it seems to build a Forge world next to the Eye of Terror, their determination has paid off. By min-maxing every deployment and meticulously calculating every inch of their defenses, they have managed to hold their ground. In fact, even in modern 40k, after the fall of Cadia, Agrina still stands as a final point of Imperial resistance near the Eye. No matter how many Dark Mechanicum vessels have tried to invade it, Agrina stands. But in order to keep up with the attrition, the billions of refugees who arrive from nearby systems are rapidly turned into new Skitarii and set to work. Combining this with the micro skills of a professional StarCraft player, they have actually been so successful that they launched strikes into the Eye of Terror, during which they maimed crucial production sites of the Dark Mechanicum. What can I say, the only thing stronger than their tactics is their hatred for anything spiky. In terms of color scheme, they wear a lot of black to show their scarred black souls. Or you know, because it makes them harder to see. They also always try to include some gold details, as it is a sign of patriotic pride to wear the Agrippinian gold.
Take what you can. Give nothing back.
I'm going to be honest with you, Graa is fucking weird, and if I had to liken it to anything, it would be as if the Tyranids had started a Forge world. To begin with, all the troops of Graa are somewhat hard linked to their priests' overlords. They take every command as religious gospel, and they will execute it to the letter. The ability to never falter is impressive, but made slightly less impressive by all the times Graa and Skitarii mindlessly march to their deaths because a tech priest failed to tell them otherwise. Akin to losing synapse connection, losing connection to the priesthood ruins the tactics of this force. Skitarii, servitors and robotics will just keep on following their last command until their death. Graans also have a Walmart version of the Shadow and the Warp. Their brains are so robotic and logical that they literally shrug off psychic attacks. No matter how many horrific visions or awful emotions you inflict on a Graan, they simply don't care. Magic isn't real and the Graans aren't about to dignify his existence by yielding to it. Finally, there's the crown. Graa is called the Crown of Miracles for its massive ring-shaped construct built around the planet. This is basically a small Forge world on its own, capable of producing troops, housing armies, and processing resources. However, this secretly isn't just a structure, no, it is actually a ship. And not just a ship, this thing is capable of warp travel. Like a Tyranid bioship, this ring leaves Graa in search for resources. It will appear out of the warp near an unsuspecting planet and center itself around it. A literal army of harvester drones is then sent out to scrape every chunk of ore, every drop of oil, and every shard of crystal from the planet. In no time, all useful resources will have been stolen and stored in the crown, after which it returns to Graa to refuel the stocks of the Forge world. If the planet decided to attack, or if any dangerous wildlife is present, the ring also immediately starts producing with the stolen resources. Depending on the situation, it will start building troops fit to slam down whatever resistance is encountered. It might take a while, but few are able to beat a Forge world in a war of attrition. Again, just like the Tyranids, they can just recover fallen troops and salvage them to make new troops on the crown.
I am just a figment of your imagination.
The nerds among you might know that Deimos once was a moon of Mars. Now don't worry, the real one is still there, but in 40k, Deimos has disappeared. Or at least that is what people want you to think. In reality, Deimos has just been relocated to Titan, the home base of the Grey Knights chapter. The Imperium's resident demon hunters utilize weapons so esoteric and heretical that they can't risk anyone else learning about it. By giving them their own forge world, it is possible to maintain a closed system of knowledge, and even then, contact between the Grey Knights and the Admech is heavily guarded to prevent any leaks. All exchanges between the factions are performed by special brainwiped servitors with even less brain function than a Knight player. This prevents the Admech from extracting knowledge from Titan, but it also prevents the mind-reading Grey Knights from learning Adeptus Mechanicus secrets.
You want my property? You can't have it, but I did you a big favor.
Triplexfoul is very much the problem child of the minor Codex Forgeworlds. These chats basically did to Mars what Mars did to the Imperium, which makes them pretty based. See, Triplexfoul is on the paper a perfectly loyal planet to Mars, and they are hardworking suppliers of weapons for the Imperial Guard. Even during the heresy, while they were surrounded on all sides, they refused to yield to the diabolical Warmaster. But they also utterly and completely refused to share any of their knowledge, technology or STCs with the Red Planet. Triplexfoul is located on the eastern fringe and thus is connected with many worlds that no one else really gets into contact with. This has led them to rediscover rare shiny STCs that nobody else has. Like Seto Kaiba, Mars of course can't stand someone having better STCs than them, and thus they have tried anything short of war to get their hands on them, but to no avail. In recent times, Mars has sent quote-unquote reinforcements that are supposed to accompany the troops of Triplexfoul. If anything of particular value is found, they are supposed to immediately report it back to Mars though.
Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall.
Time to pull out the Bible quotes here, as nothing fits Gryphon 4 better than Proverbs 16:18. In other words, one must learn humility or you will be taught it, and boy oh boy did the universe teach Gryphon 4 a harsh lesson. Before the launch of the Great Crusade, Gryphon 4 already controlled 8 star systems, a Titan Legion and Manufactorums to rival Mars. After the heresy, this only grew to new heights. It is that Mars was supported by all the other Forge Worlds, or Gryphon would have easily outmatched the Red Planet in, well, basically everything. Trophies of their many victories choked up the cabinets, their industry pumped out more stuff than anyone else, and only Mars's military strength could rival that of Gryphon 4. So when High Fleet Leviathan arrived, and its course appeared to go straight towards Gryphon 4, the priesthood was confident in their ability to hold. The Imperium and Mars called for evacuation, but they weren't leaving. Nowadays, Gryphon 4 is called the Lost Forge. The Forge world itself has been obliterated. The nearby planet eaten bare, and the Titan Legion is all but extinct. In fact, the Legio Graphonicus might be extinct because the last sight of them was during the final defense of Cadia. Regardless, the few surviving tech priests now travel the galaxy looking to create a new homeworld, having vowed to restore Gryphon 4 to its former glory in the Omnissiah's name.
Still can't fix all your flaws.
Vos Prime was already a dedicated ally to Mars during the Age of Strife, and upon rediscovery, the right hand of Mars quickly reignited this relationship. Vos Prime's priesthood is famous for their uncanny ability to fix the robots of the Legio Cybernetica. Where Mars is famous for its mastery over the machine spirit, Vos specializes in the more mechanical parts. Vos Prime is located in a mineral and metal-rich asteroid field from which they gather large quantities of resources. These resources, together with the knowledge from Mars, place them in an ideal position to focus on anything mechanical. Don't ask them to fix anything non-mechanical though, because as much as their robots are feared for their strength, their plasma weaponry is just as feared for spontaneous combustion. Now those were all the Forge Worlds that you will find in the codices, but there are a couple more from the RPG books that I also want to mention.
The harvest is upon us.
First of these is the glass world of Pere. This technically isn't a real Forge world as it only exports food and medicine, but because of its Adeptus Mechanicus overlords, it is just as industrialized as a real one. Pere was colonized a long time ago and started off as a garden world. At some point however, disaster struck and the machinery that kept Pere's atmosphere stable failed. The population started construction of massive glass houses under the directive of the Magos Biologis. In these glass houses they were able to recreate artificial ecosystems that provided a livable atmosphere, while everyone outside slowly froze to death as the atmosphere gave out. Over the millennia, the Adeptus Mechanicus have continuously expanded these glass houses, and now they cover almost the entire planet. The non-Admech population has long gone extinct under their rule, and thus they needed to find workers elsewhere. Fortunately, penal colonies exist, and thus the #1 import for Precipre is criminals, who will make excellent servitors. They don't have to worry about defense either. The nearby worlds already defend the world, because if Precipre were to fall, everyone would starve.
The only problem is, I can't remember what I've forgotten.
Bellane was a pretty famous world within the cult, renowned for their ability to make stasis fields. They have found themselves in a bit of a pickle, however, as they forgot how to do so. Former Archmagos Dagos kept the stasis technology manufacturing on a need-to-know basis, and only he really knew how the process worked. Bit awkward it was then when Dagos suffered a stroke and he died on the spot. The High Council of the planet has ever since been busy covering up his death and acting as if he is still alive. For the past decades they have impersonated him, puppeted his corpse around, and kept up the myth that a resource shortage prevents the production of more stasis fields. They have been able to prevent bankruptcy by making void shields, but people are becoming more suspicious by the day.
Heave-ho for rock and stone.
The planets Het, Hash and Hat move close to each other, which somehow causes the gravity of the planets to increase. This then somehow causes weapons made during that time to be magically strong because of an increased density. Oh yes, and the population consists out of midgets because of, well, again, gravity. Hey, don't look at me, Black Industries came up with this lore, okay? Anyways, that was the last of the Forge Worlds that I wanted to discuss today. Please also let me know your favorite Forge World in the comments, and of course, if it is Stygies, maybe don't comment that. After all, you never know if an Inquisitor might be watching.
You've reached the end of this Vox message. If this sparked your pleasure centers, make sure to anoint the subscribe button. Thank you for visiting Bathelloren. May the Omnissiah be with you.